Hi there, Whitescalp. It's Gen GC here. So yeah, this will be kind of tying in with your base defense, really. So for me, looking at your base defense overall, I would think that you need to get the Centurion maxed first, and then start bringing this into defense. I mean, while you've got it there, I mean, you'd certainly want to be sent. I don't see any real need for the Panzer. At your level, I think the Cent would be a far better air defence unit. Having said that, I'm a little bit rusty at what it feels like at level 8 to use that. But certainly when you get that maxed, you would probably take the Panzer out entirely. And I noticed this in the first video as well, that I probably would have gone for a much higher probably level heli in your defence. I really don't think that the attack as a defensive unit would be the one I would go with. But also you've got to think about sort of like the timings of these as well. So it's 60 seconds, if you will, before you get 3 of those in the air, and at the end of 60 seconds they're not really going to cause anybody any trouble. I'm pretty sure if you thought about what you go up against, attack coming out as a spawn as a defender probably isn't going to be a worry. And I'd also change your setup on this as well. So for the airfield, I think going for 5 seconds, if I wanted to set your airfield out, obviously I would target that quite early on, and I'd probably take that out before 5 seconds. So I've actually gone for more of a 2 second, then 5 seconds, something along that sort of line, just so at least after 4 seconds I've got 4 in the air. So if they do air strikers, I'm still going to cause them problems. But as we discussed earlier, they do need to be maxed to be effective. I've no issue with your defenders here in the sense of the garage. I think that works really well. The troop defense, though, which I can't quite spot, that really does want to be ghost at the maximum level 15. I think for any sort of true effectiveness. But again, have a think about spawn times are there. I wouldn't go any more than sort of 2, something along that sort of line. Just get them out quite quickly. Now looking at the base itself. Now I'm just mindful here that obviously it's difficult to predict, but I don't feel that the flight path of an F-35, for example, will come in this way. And I suspect that the War Factory will be vulnerable, because I think that the F-35 will come in this way, which would mean that the blocker that I think you're going for probably wouldn't work. I'd also be tempted to bring the heavy flak kind of further towards the flight path, so that when the F-35's coming in, I going for the heavy flak, or for example going for your War Factory, the CC needs to block the War Factory, and there's obviously videos for that. But you often find that if you do put the heavy flak kind of nearer to the base, people do try and take it out, and then you can grind and pound them with other sort of units. Or meanwhile, because they're concentrating on taking the heavy flak out, that means your Scents and the like can spawn. So I think that would be a better strategy. I really don't think at our level there's any particular place for machine guns, and you do seem to be quite salvo heavy here. Now salvos are all well and good, but if you kind of park in the middle where that transformer is, you're probably under all 4 or 5 of these sort of turrets there. So the turrets wouldn't technically pick you up, you'd be in the blind spot. So I do have a think about that. I do quite like these heavy howitzers. I think they're great FOB units. But I'd be thinking about your SAMs there. You've got, what, 1 SAM overall, I think, where I'd be suggesting probably 2, even 3 level 7 SAMs. Yours are level 6 at the moment. The fact that it's single boosted is good, so that works out well. But I think you do need a bit more SAM in there to make sure that if they do come at you with the F-35 strike, which is probably typical at your level, then they don't get that second chance. I think you'd probably get ultimately 2 or 3 goes with F-35, and I don't think they'd be particularly threatened. So I want to see a bit more SAM in there, and I want to see the SAMs upgraded to level 7. I want to see the kind of base brought in a little bit. I think you're quite spread out, which gives you a couple of problems. So if I start coming at you here, First of all, your mines aren't really going to cause us any problems. I'd be putting your mines where people are going to probably drop to spawn rather than kind of more into the base, and sort of block these areas off, so there's no mines whatsoever coming here. So I'd be particularly wanting to come at you from this sort of avenue. But you know what my main concern is, if I start coming at you from these turrets here, these turrets here probably aren't going to pick you up. I probably want to see a bit more PM in there as well. I think I've been seeing 1 PM, 1 howitzer. So yeah, I'll probably 2 to 3 SAMs at level 7, and then have a bit of variation in your turrets. So you know, if you are going for quite a few SAMs, which are certainly better at higher levels than us, I'd probably have maybe a rail gun in there as well. So if somebody does try and get underneath into the dead zones, that will pick them up. But overall, I mean, your base defense is you know, as a percentage is working well. But I fancy there's so much more we could do with this. So first objective then, check your replays and just check the flight path. You really want the flight path of an F-35, etc., to be coming down here and finding that the war factory is protected by the CC. So where pretty much that SAM is there is probably where you want your war factory, if you will, just to make sure those scents, once the max, definitely get out. I think that would be absolutely key. Quite like where you've got your airfield in a sense of overall position. I don't think I'd have it exactly where you've got it, but I think that overall position is going to mean that your centre of your base has got great NEM cover. But again, those NEMs do need to be, you know, much higher level, you know, to be fully effective. We've already mentioned that from the barracks there, I think you need Ghost, probably 2, 2 and 2, but they certainly need to be a much higher level than they're at as it stands now. And then the helipad, again, I'd be going for Super Hind or something of that level. Certainly at 67, I think that's really where we should be at. So if you've got 45% defence with all those things that you could be improving, fuck me, you're going to be on 52, 53, 54 defence, you know. So there's so much you can do. So in summary, those units we've discussed, definitely get them. Discuss flight path with me going forward, and we'll make sure that you're the absolute maximum protected. A little bit more turret diversity and a little bit less SAMs. And think about, if you start coming at you from this avenue, will the other turrets pick you up? I think you need potentially better overlap. And I think, you know, that you know, covered would start to give you an even better base than what you've got now. All right, so we'll review this again once you've done some of your implementations, and we'll see how we've moved forward. Cheers, my man. Take care.